Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Andy Nguyen, and today I'm excited to release this video. This is the Satisfaction 75. It was supposed to be the R1, but this is now R1 and R2 review video. You're not gonna wanna miss this. With the Satisfaction 75, it's taken the world by storm. It's aesthetic, it has a knob, it has an OLED, it won Mech Madness's Board of the Year, even beat out things such as the Jane, the Keycoal, all of them. So this right here is the Satisfaction 75 R2. Please ignore the fingerprinting, it's dark and it's just smudgy. So the R2 is going to be this Saturday, October 31st, 11 a.m. ET. It is going to be a group buy that will fulfill sometime in Q3 2021. What this means is it's a pre-order. So I know when I post these review videos, usually the GB has already run, the GB ain't coming back. You're stuck with dealing with the mech market and buying it secondhand, and unfortunately the prices get a little crazy. This time I wanted to get this out early, prior to the GB, so I can get this information to you so you're armed and you can decide whether or not you want to enter the GB. This one right here is my personal board. The Satisfaction 75 is Cannon Keys' entry into the high-end market. Upas from Cannon Keys, the designer, the owner, the vendor, the man of the hour. He has a Brutus line of keyboards which is more affordable and in stock. The Satisfaction 75, however, is a nicer board. The QC is much better, and he did a great job in R1. In R1, it was $400, and there were no real hiccups in the GB process. I was able to get a Deep Ocean Blue. I was able to get a Deep Ocean Blue variant from Extras, and although it was B stock, man, the quality was impeccable. I could only see a little bit of anno blemish up here on that board, and it was really nice. It's definitely really nice. So let's talk about the board in general so you can get a good idea of what it is and why it's special. It's a full aluminum board with a brushed brass weight. There's a little bit of design on it. The design looks really cool, honestly. And some people may not like it, but I personally love it because it follows the theme. The theme is based off of the pirate ship named Satisfaction. You can read more about it in the link that I'll put in the description. So the board is burger mounted, which is essentially a top mount with O-rings. What that means is the typing experience is going to be very consistent across the board. The burger mounting kind of rounds off the sharpness of the sound, especially when using the stock brass plate. It can sound a little sharp, especially if you use tactiles or something like that. With the burger mounting system, it's a smoother sound to my ears. In terms of the typing feel, it's not gonna be very different from a top mount. Like I tell you that right now. If you're expecting something bouncy, that's gonna be dependent mostly on the plate material. So it comes with a stock brass plate. You can get an additional FR4 plate or a CF plate. FR4 is more plasticky, but it still isn't truly flexible. If you want flexible, you gotta go for getting a custom palm plate made. So it's a 75% layout, so you ain't got your Navro and your numpad and all that, but you still have your F-row. So the F-row is really nice. With those buttons, you get a few of the navigation buttons. I personally use home and end a lot and delete. So having 3 is sufficient for me. F-row is key because I use F8 a lot in my work, F2, F10. There's a lot of Fs, man. But of course, when we talk about the design, we can't ignore the fact that this board has an OLED and a knob. So what does the OLED do? Well, I'll show you some clips here. The OLED can actually show what keys you're typing on. There's a little novelty factor. You can show the time. You can see the time on your computer. I know you can see the time on your phone. I know. But having it on the keyboard, that's just cool. It also shows SCAG, which is a visual indicator for Shift, Control, Alt, and GUI. GUI meaning the Windows key. So when you press those, it will light up on the little OLED. It also shows the date if you change the configuration. So the knob, what does the knob do? Well, the knob controls volume. Minor thing, right? Just turning the knob to control the volume, but it's satisfying, bro. Satisfying. You can also set it to control the scroll wheel, which is useful if you're doing some editing programs. Hover your mouse over something, start changing the dial. Upas actually did a little bit of back-end design so that you can configure it in VIA. Typically, most of the configurations for a knob are embedded into QMK. So you gotta learn to write some basic script, compile it, and then flash that script. It's a little bit involved, so I'm glad that Upas did a little bit of backend so that it's easier for people that have this board. So it's 75%, right? Most people don't like a 75%, but I personally like this layout because the arrows are offset, so it's actually not in line with the bottom row. This kind of separates it a little bit more, and then you got your navigation keys. Also has a right blocker, so it's not compressed into the 75% layout. The F-row separated as well. There are compact or compressed, I don't know how you call it, 75% layouts where all the keys are just like mushed together. I don't like that. It's just, I can't find where the keys are. It's gonna lead to mispresses. Not my favorite. I like having all of this exploded out. It's cool. It takes more space on the desk, but I'm okay with that. This is more like the centerpiece of my desk. And we know those navigation keys, that's truly just an artisan holder. I have to pull together all my artisans to be able to flex on this board because the board deserves it. I can't not have artisans, right? So in terms of the design, there's a reason why I went back to this board. I originally had the B stock navy from R1, and then I traded it, and And over the time as I experienced Iron 165s, I experienced the Kiyu, I experienced the Key Colt, touched a few Singas. I've touched a lot of boards throughout my YouTube and Twitch career in keyboards, and there's something about the satisfaction. I just missed it. So I ended up rebuying it at secondhand pricing. Dumb, but I enjoy it. I don't regret that purchase one bit. So we've been gushing about the design. We have to talk about the sound and feel. So as someone who's been blessed with the opportunity to try a lot of different boards, I'm trying to give back by at least giving my input as to how I think this board compares to this board. So for the Satisfaction 75, R1 or R2, the sound and feel are the same. You didn't really change the design of the board all that much to affect sound and feel. Still a burger mounted aluminum case. I don't think the board has S tier sound and feel. I gotta say, you don't get this board if you are truly focused on sound and feel. You get this board for the novelty. So the aesthetic of the board with a knob and the OLED, the non-compressed layout with the offset FRO, and then the right blocker for the navigation and the staggered arrows, it all completes the package to make it look striking, but doesn't make it look classic. For someone who's more of a purist that really loves like the TKL look, at most adding an F13 key or maybe a top right blocker, something kind of understated. This board isn't really understated in my opinion. It's really a looker, and when I show this board to my coworkers when we could still go to the office, they really liked it. They're like, oh my god, that looks so cool. I'm like, yeah, it does. And with that, some enthusiasts say this is a board for normies. I'm like, I'd rather be a normie and enjoy my keyboard rather than waiting for someone else on the internet to approve my purchases. That's just my 2 cents though. So in terms of the sound and feel, to get more into the nitty gritty, it comes stock with a brass plate, and I believe the stock brass plate is a little sharp sounding, so I highly recommend that you put in some kind of foam at the bottom. I've used 1/8 inch shelf liner or 1/16 inch foam. Any foam you want. You can go cheap with the shelf liner. You can go some custom foam or neoprene, whatever. Just something to kind of make it sound a little bit less hollow. Of course, my recommendation will be to use the FR4 plate. Money. Upas hit a home run by putting FR4 in all of his boards, so I recommend the FR4 plate even if you use tactiles. They sound great with JWK linears, and inks on FR4 sound a little bit muted. So if you're going for a quieter sound, maybe go inks with FR4. Kind of more all-around clack sound, you're gonna go with a JWK on FR4. Tactiles, it's all gonna sound a little bit more muted than a stiff plate variant. So just keep that in mind, give it a try. I personally heard good things about putting tactile on CF, so try that. My personal favorite is gonna be ink on palm, the Gator Ink Black on palm. I'm still waiting to get a good palm plate to put in, so for now, I'm still using the brass plate. I got a Mil-Max. I'm throwing switches in there, trialing them out, having fun with the hobby, So we talked about the kind of overall package of the board, mostly saying good things, but let's focus on the cons right now. So the cons of this board. Well, some people just don't like the layout, dude. Like, I don't know why people that don't like the look of this board come to talk smack on it. But 75% layout is a little bit taller, and because everything is exploded out, it's girthy on the desk, man. It's a big footprint. And some people prefer a 60 or 65% layout to really compress it, so it's not as wide, and without the FRO, it feels less boxy. So the main complaint is that it's kind of squarish once you have the tallness of it, but it's really just an aesthetic choice. Another thing, one of the concerns of R1 was the USB-C cutout. That's kind of a tall boy right there. So when you put your USB-C in, you end up like missing the hole. I don't miss, but I've heard some other people miss the hole. In R2, hole smaller. So you won't miss anymore. So that's been improved. Another thing people complained about in R1 was the edges are a little sharp. R2, the edges are a little smoother. It's really hard to show in photos or video, but from my feeling and rubbing my board in all those weird places, it feels a little bit smoother. And another thing, the aesthetic choice, right? We're going to go back to aesthetics. The top right corner is a little bit cluttered. With the Canon logo, with the OLED, with the knob, it's all kind of crammed in there. Some people might not like it. I personally don't mind the Canon logo being there. Respect to the designer. It doesn't pop too much like it does on the Chimera. The Chimera is in contrasting color. It's really understated. You don't really see it unless you kind of point a light toward it. And the other thing about that is people complain that with the Canon logo there, the OLED isn't centered in that top right corner, which I understand, but it all boils down to aesthetic preference. I don't mind it. That corner is great for me. I got used to it maybe, but in terms of like symmetry and aesthetics, you may not like it. So the biggest con was when I first recorded this video, even though the GB price was $400, the extras price was like $450, $440, the aftermarket pricing was like $1,000 to $1,200. And at that time, pre-Rona, that was ridiculous. But prior to the actual announcement of R2 and the actual date, even with Canon Keys saying that R2 is gonna happen sometime in 2020, people were paying $2,000 for a Satisfaction 75 R1. Even though the GB is coming, sometime in the year. That was crazy. And after the announcement was made, it finally dropped a little bit, maybe around 1500 to 1800 now. I don't know. The prices are crazy for this. Aftermarket pricing for this has been ridiculous, but that's more of a reason to enter the GB this Saturday on October 31st. If you're really interested in the board, go ahead and go for the GB. We gotta think about the pricing. This year, because of tariffs and government stuff, pricing now is 480 rather than the 400 of before. That's still gonna be a con. 480 for a group buy means you're putting your money down as a pre-order and you're not gonna see it for Q3 of 2021. That's at least 6 months, looking around 9. Can you handle that? Can you financially budget that? That's gonna be up to you. Value for one person and another person is gonna vary depending on your circumstances. I think it's still worth it despite it being one of the more expensive GB boards at this point with the increase in prices. One, it's proven. We know exactly what it's gonna look like, exactly what it's gonna sound like. I have the R2 here. We have prototypes here, so it's not too much of a risk. You know Cannon Keys is gonna fulfill. They have before, but it is expensive. You really have to love this board. Don't get it just because it's hype. Don't get it because it's cool. Get it because you want it. So that's the pricing for R2. Let's go into a little bit more details as to the changes in R2. So in R2, you got a new knob. So in R2, you have a new knob. You have a new lower profile knob, stock knob that has that really dope compass design that fits with the theme, and I really like it. The main reason why people wanted the Rama knobs in R1 was because the stock knob was a little tall. It was too tall versus the keycaps. So now your stock knob that comes in aluminum is gonna be low profile and it's gonna feel great. The biggest thing was the feel. And of course with the Rama knobs are coming back in R2. So now you can have silver, you can have black. Luckily for me, as an owner of R1, with the R1 Rama knob that came at hefty price, they're not doing gold again. So at least there's a separation between R1 and R2. But another thing is, with the $480 price tag, there's no premium to get the cloud white option. So now this year you got the pirate black, your cloud white, you got your deep ocean blue, got the new lilac and the new green color. Those are gonna be super sick, a little bit more niche. Really plan out your keycaps before you commit to those. So the PCB has been updated in R2 as well. There's upgraded ESD protection. There was already ESD protection in R1. Now R2 is just a little bit better. The plate design has been updated as well. The corner keys were a little bit too tight in R1, so R2 has been slightly modified. And those are the changes. So the question that you're gonna ask me is the Satisfaction 75 R2 or even R1 worth it? I am admittedly a normie that likes what he likes, so I really like it. I enjoy the board. I paid a lot more than the 480 that you see for the GB pricing for that board. Of course, I got it secondhand and right away, didn't have to wait. But for someone that has, let's say, one board, if you have a board in hand, I would highly recommend the Satisfaction 75 R2 GB if you really like the aesthetic. It's something worth waiting for. There were some other GBs that have happened for the 75% layout with the Primus and the 7V, and I personally don't think that those two boards can replace the Satisfaction 75 R2 in any way, shape, or form. They lean more towards a cleaner aesthetic, so if you want a more traditional board, you may want to go for those. But overall, the sound and feel are well within the range of a high-end board. It's not S tier, but it's right there. Once you foam the brass plate, or if you go with a more flexible plate, it's money. Make sure you watch my Satisfaction 75 R1 video with inks on FR4 half. That sound test was money. I really enjoyed that board. I freaking miss it. I need to make some more of those FR4 half plates. Overall, I think it's a great package. I think it's a very interesting board. I think it's a board worth keeping. Especially in this hobby, a lot of things are starting to look alike. Even the 65% keyboards with the top right blocker, that's starting to get done over and over and over again. So the Satisfaction 75 R2 or the Satisfaction 75 in general has a place in most people's collections. If you don't like the aesthetic, you don't like the knob, if you want S-tier sound and feel, perhaps go for something else. Perhaps go for a gasket or a gummy O-ring TKO. That's personally what I think is gonna get you the best sound and feel, but that's boring, man. It's just a TKO. I like my knobs. That's review. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. If you have any questions, one, go to the Cannon Keys Discord. I'll link that in the description below. 2, you can ask me in the comment section. But 3, the links I have in the description for the Cannon Keys website will be referral links. Please consider using them so you can help support the channel. I get a little kickback from the order. on Saturday. Once again, the GB is happening Saturday, October 31st, 11 a.m. ET. The link will be hype.candykeys.com, but with that URL, you're gonna have to refresh at 11 a.m. Make sure you know that it's 8 a.m. PT for the PT people like myself, and you just wait in the queue, which is a raffle queue. And then once you get through and get selected, now it's first come, first serve, which means you gotta check out as fast as possible. The extras and all that will be available till November 6th, 11:59 p.m. So from there, from October 31st to November 6th, you can do another order for PCBs, plates, knobs, encoders, and all that. But a little segment here, I want to talk about what you need to buy in this GB. If you buy any GB board, first you get the board, of course. It'll come with one plate, one PCB, and in this case you'll have a rotary, which is the thing that goes under the knob, rotary encoder, as well as an OLED screen. I highly recommend, at the bare minimum, getting another PCB. Just PCB, no extra rotary encoder, no OLED, none of that. That's in case your PCB dies when you're desoldering or something like that, or you want to just sell the Satisfaction 75, I don't know why you would, with a new PCB. And if you want to go a step above, I would do one PCB, one extra plate, so you have the brass plate option and another plate option, and then an OLED and a rotary encoder and everything that comes with that, so you can have two builds, so you can swap out of the Satisfaction 75, so you can have two kind of typing experiences without having two boards. And if you want to go all out, go ahead and buy extra knobs, extra encoders, extra plates, extra PCBs. Have fun with it. It's a hobby. Don't get too serious about it. And if it doesn't meet your budget today, it doesn't meet your budget by this Saturday, there will always be more group buys. There will always be the next shiny thing to look forward to. So don't worry about it. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you don't get too stressed out on Saturday. Please give me a thumbs up if you like this kind of video. Subscribe if you want to see more. Hit the notification bell to never miss these videos as soon as they go live. And I'll see you in the next video or the Twitch stream. As a reminder, I stream Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, live on Twitch. Link in the description. Now it's time for me to go. Bye.